Set sail on the seas of terror as a boat with a very strange cargo hits the high seas, only to find that something very, very evil is in the hold of the ship. This is the last voyage of the Demeter, which is a film based on the original Bram Stoker Dracula novel. This was a section of Stoker's Dracula that was a ship's log, captain's log of this boat. Don't want to give anything away, but this is part of what the story is, and I'll tell you this much. This boat that was had some cargo, was hired to haul some cargo from, I think, Romania to England, and turns out they're boxes filled with soil from Castle Dracula, and Dracula himself is in one of those cases. And what happens? Who will survive and what will be left of them? One of the best taglines of all time that could really be applied to any decent horror film. So this film is an expansion of those pages of that captain's log that are present in the novel Dracula. What happened? It's sort of the, what in the book Dracula, if I recall correctly, sort of starts with this empty ship wrecking on the shore in England, and that cargo is inside, and all of the crew is either missing or dead, and the captain is lashed to the steering wheel. And this film basically tells the story of what happened there. So this was a decent flick. This is a good suspense movie, good thriller. You don't see a tremendous amount of the infamous bloodsucker in this film. You see him in flashes. Cool, creepy character design for Dracula in this, or Nosferatu, if you will. It's sort of a mix of the Nosferatu look and the look of the Reggie Nalder vampire, Barlow, I believe it was, in Stephen King's Salem's Lot TV movie, the original TV movie. And it's got a cool, creepy look that you only see in flashes. And the majority of this movie is just, something bad is on the ship. And again, who will survive and what will be left of them? Well done, atmospheric. You feel like you're on that boat. This film is available in some theaters in what they call 4DX, which is seats that move and seats that poke you and shake and throw air at you and throw water at you and spray mist at you. And I'm thinking this is such a rainy, sea-bound film. You must walk out of this movie drenched if you saw it in 4DX. I think it would just constantly be shooting water at you. So a cast of faces that are not wildly recognizable, whose names I couldn't be bothered to remember, but to me that makes a movie better in some ways, because it's not like it's Tom Cruise, where it's like, hey, it's Tom Cruise, and you think about everything else he's ever done. This is a movie where the people aren't so familiar that you necessarily associate them with strong characters they've played in the past, so you just see those characters, and that's great. The story overall, not that I didn't just tell you that, is ship is looking for crew. They find a young doctor to be an extra hand on the boat and be the ship's doctor. Somewhat reluctantly, they let him on, and he is sort of the eyes through which we see what unfolds in this film. It basically follows the very often used horror template of a group of people in a confined space. Something terrible or evil is picking them off one by one. They discover there's somebody with them who has gone through this once before and can give them some tips on possibly how to foil that evil, and then it becomes, how do they do it or not? Now, if you've read the book Dracula, you kind of know how this is going to turn out. This movie does commit, to me, one of the cardinal sins of modern screenwriting, which is to put something really compelling or dramatic right up front, and then cut or fade to black, and then have the title come up that says 4 weeks earlier, and then we see the whole movie play out in linear fashion that gets us up to the point where the movie started. And I hate that. I really hate that. And when this movie did it, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. Because intellectually, the movie starts telling you nobody lives. So it kind of undercuts, for me as a viewer, the thrill or the tension of, well, who's going to make it? Is this person going to survive? Because right at the beginning of the movie, they're all dead. This film actually plays with that a little bit. I'm not going to say how or what, so I get choked up when I talk about boats. I will say that I give it points for shifting my expectations or giving me doing a little switcheroo toward the end, which I did not expect, and I was not upset with necessarily. Partway through this, I realized I'm watching a Universal monster movie. This is a Universal film. It's about Dracula, and it is, I think, perhaps, not to give anything away, and another attempt for on the part of Universal to try to get a new couple movies series out of their classic Universal monsters. Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Invisible Man, The Mummy. You know, we've seen the Invisible Man actually was a prime example of a really good one that hasn't had a follow-up yet. Will this lead to more films? I don't know. I think this is being fairly well received by people. It's a decent thriller. It's a good creeper. It's a good edge of your seat. If you can forget the fact that everybody in this movie is going to die, there is the tension of how will they survive. Some pretty gruesome moments, some pretty unsettling moments. It was really well done. I'm usually not a fan of prequels, as it were, or movies that take some tiny little thing and, you know, purport to tell you the story you've never heard. And it's like, well, yeah, because you just made it up. It's like, it's not like the story's been locked away forever and finally it's being revealed. It's like some screenwriter came up with the story recently. But they do repeatedly say, this is based on the book by Bram Stoker. This is based on this captain's log in the film. So I call it legit. I call it a fun horror movie matinee. Nothing brilliant, nothing wildly unique, but it held my attention. It was creepy, it was atmospheric, and that's a lot more than most movies do these days, especially in the horror realm. So in theaters now from Universal Pictures is a Dracula movie. It is a Dracula movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, from the director of The Autopsy of Jane Doe and Trollhunter, which I meant to mention a long time ago. Couldn't be bothered to mention his name, but same person did that, so you know the person is good with tone and so forth.